What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka New York Prepper. I wanted to just show you guys how you can protect yourself from ticks, in the woods, okay? It's springtime right now, and a lot of you guys are going to be going out in the woods and, camping, hiking, bushcrafting, scouting, turkey hunting. And obviously for bugging out, it's important to know how to protect yourself from ticks, especially if you're bugging out. If you have to bug out on foot or, escape from your home and you have to cross through wooded areas to get to your bug out location or to get to a safer area, you're going to have to deal with ticks and mosquitoes and, different kinds of bugs and things like that. So you need to know how to protect yourself from these bugs. Like ticks, for example. In my area, ticks carry a lot of pathogens. They carry Lyme disease. Lyme disease is really bad over here in the Hudson Valley. If you watched one of my videos that I did about a week and a half ago, I went for a little scouting trip or hiking trip near my area. And I picked up like 20 ticks on my legs, and I had to pick them off my legs and throw them on the ground. And that's just in a 20-minute period, or a half hour to an hour of hiking. I picked up 20 ticks on me. Okay, so imagine if you're bugging out and you're crossing large distances on foot and you're going through wooded areas. You're going to catch a lot of ticks, and the ticks are going to, attach themselves to your clothing, to your body, and it may be difficult for you to find those ticks. If you're in a bug out situation or an SHTF situation, it may be hard for you to find those ticks. You're not going to have your spouse there to check you and look into different parts of your body, your back, check your back in different areas that you can't see to see if there's any ticks. So you need to figure out ways to protect yourself, all right? And I'm going to try to give you guys some tips that I have and things that I've done for the last 20 years of my life, being an outdoorsman, a hunter. Ever since I was a teenager, I'm now 34. I've spent, a lot of time in the woods, in wilderness areas, also in areas that are infested by ticks. And just living in an area with a lot of ticks, I've learned how to deal with them and how to protect myself from them. So I wanted to just give you guys some pointers and understand that there's nothing that you can do to protect yourself 100% from ticks. You can minimize your chances of getting Lyme disease and minimize your chances of getting a tick on you and stuff like that, but there's no 100% guarantee. So I'm going to try to do the best that I can and share some things that may help you, but just understand that it's not a guarantee, that even if you do the things that I say, it's not guaranteed that you're going to eliminate all ticks from getting onto you and from possibly transmitting Lyme disease or other pathogens to your body. Okay. Now in my area, Lyme disease is a big threat. There's a lot of people with Lyme disease here. A lot of my friends, even my fiance, she actually has Lyme disease, and I know a lot of people that got Lyme disease, and it's not fun. And when I say my fiance has Lyme disease, what that means is that she had it when she was a kid, and once you get Lyme disease, it doesn't fully leave your body, so the bacteria will stay in your body for the rest of your life. And sometimes you can get flare-ups where the bacteria will flare up and you'll feel sick for like a day or two, and your joints may start to hurt and stuff like that. So you really don't want to get Lyme disease. You want to avoid Lyme disease at all costs. Another thing besides Lyme disease is Rocky Mountain spotted fever. That's another one, and that's more in the western United States. But there's also babesiosis, which is another tick-borne bacteria that can transmit into your body. So, you have those three big diseases you got to worry about, Lyme disease, babesiosis, and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And, you definitely don't want to get any of those pathogens when you're in a SHTF situation, because you may not have access to antibiotics. You're not going to be able to just call your doctor up and, have him prescribe a 2-week course of, doxycycline or something like that. You're pretty much going to be on your own, and most people don't have access to medical grade antibiotics, simply because it's illegal. So, the last thing you want is, getting Lyme disease or babesiosis or Rocky Mountain spotted fever when you're in a bug out situation, or SHTF or WROL, EROL, whatever. Any type of end of the world situation, or an SHTF, you don't want to have that problem. You want to be healthy, because you're going to have a lot of other things to deal with. You're going to have to deal with people, and a lot of other issues. So the last thing you want is to be sick with some kind of a bacteria that's going to be affecting your ability to, physically perform, and diminish your physical capabilities by making you weak and tired and things like that. You definitely want to protect yourself from ticks, all right? And also mosquitoes, obviously, is another one. Mosquitoes obviously carry tons of viruses and bacteria, encephalitis, West Nile virus, Zika virus, what else? Malaria. There's no malaria in the United States, but in the Caribbean there's malaria. There's no malaria in Florida as far as I know. But you definitely want to protect yourself from mosquitoes as well. So I'm going to show you guys some tips and some tricks that I've done over the years to protect myself from ticks. And again, it's springtime right now, so the ticks are coming out. So one thing, before I get into some of the other protection things that I'm going to talk about, I want to just mention the seasons. The seasons have a big effect on ticks and bugs in general, but especially ticks, okay? The worst time to be out in the woods is the springtime, all right? Especially if the temperature is like above 50 degrees, like those really warm spring days. Like today, it's probably in the 40s right now, so the ticks are not that active. But once the temperature goes above 50 and 60, degrees Fahrenheit, that's when the ticks really start to come out. And springtime is the worst, because the ticks, they didn't eat anything all winter. Ticks hibernate over the winter. People think that they die, but they actually, a lot of them don't die. They don't freeze. They hibernate under the leaf litter, under the leaves here. Like you can see here, the leaves on the ground. All right, the ticks, they hibernate under the leaves, okay? And once the weather starts to get warmer, they thaw out, just like frogs. Okay, frogs hibernate during the winter. They have an antifreeze, and frogs basically go dormant over the entire winter. And once the temperature warms up, they thaw out, and they're hungry. Just like bears, just like frogs. Ticks are the same way. They didn't have a meal for the whole winter, and they're looking for blood. All right, so they're gonna be very active in the springtime. All right, especially when you get those first like couple of warm days where it's like 50, 60 degrees. The ticks are really going to be climbing up and trying to catch onto a host. And actually, as I'm sitting here, I'm checking myself just to make sure I don't have anything. But so you want to try to avoid outdoor activity in the springtime, if you can, because spring is the worst time. All right, summertime is bad also, obviously, but spring is the worst, because the ticks are usually hungry. Okay, it's the easiest way to put it that I can say it. The ticks are hungry. Okay, they didn't have a meal for the whole winter, and once it starts getting warm, they're gonna be hungry, and they're gonna be looking for blood. All right. And the way ticks work is that they climb up branches, and they try to latch onto you when you walk by. All right, they don't drop. People think that they drop off of leaves and stuff like that, and branches that are overhead. They don't drop onto you. What they do is they climb up onto, like, bushes and brush and vegetation, and they stay on the branches that are usually up to like waist high. And when you walk by, or an animal walks by, they cling on. And then, once they cling on, they have very strong, their legs are very strong. So, once all it takes is one or two of their legs to grab onto your shirt, or grab onto, if it's an animal, grab onto their fur, or if it's your skin, they can grab onto your skin. And all it takes is just one or two of their legs, and they're very strong, and they can hold on to you, and then, and they can secure a strong hold onto your body, and you're going to have that tick on you, and you're not going to know it. All right, so there's a lot of different things, but like I said, the first thing you need to know is that the springtime is the worst time to be outdoors, and especially if you're going to be doing any kind of brush, if you're going to be out in brushy locations where there's a lot of brush and low vegetation. If you're in open woods like you see here, mature hardwoods, you don't have to worry as much about ticks, because the ticks don't have anything that they can latch onto. Ticks need some type of a brushy area where they can climb up to like a branch that's sticking out, and wait for some animal to pass by, and then latch on. All right, if they're in open forest, a mature hardwood forest like you see behind me, with oaks and mature tree species, hardwood tree species, the ticks are not going to have a way to latch onto you. All right, so even if they're there, the threat is much less than if you're in a brushy, grassy area with a lot of vegetation that's up to the waist level. Okay, so if you do have to go out, first of all, avoid going out in the springtime if you can. Now, obviously, if it's a bug out situation or SHTF, you don't have a choice. If you have to bug out, or you have to escape from wherever you are and move to a better location because your current location is compromised, you have no choice. You have to go into the woods and into the brushy areas during that bad time, during the springtime. So in that situation, you want to take extra precautions, and obviously you want to avoid brushy areas at all costs. So if you do have to move about in the springtime, or really any time of the year, in a wooded area, especially summer and spring, you want to avoid brushy areas with a lot of undergrowth, like I said, because that's how the ticks latch onto you. And this is obviously common sense for a lot of people, but I'm just reviewing it, and then I'm going to get deeper into different products and different chemicals and tips and tricks. I like to keep things simple. I don't want to get too advanced, because a lot of the advanced things, they don't work, so I like to keep things simple for myself and for you guys. So if you're expecting, like a very deep, detailed, discussion with 50 different ways to protect yourself from ticks, then I'm not going to be able to provide that for you. But just understand, there's no guaranteed way to protect yourself from, ticks, okay? But there are things you can do to minimize. So like I said, avoid the springtime. Don't go in the woods in the spring, especially the beginning of spring, like for over here, like end of April and May are really the times when there's a lot of ticks out, because that's when it starts to warm up here in after mid-May, or not mid-May, I'm sorry, mid-April. After mid-April is when the temperature starts to really warm up over here. Usually it starts to get above 50 degrees. And then, through May, May it starts to warm up into the 60s. And that's when we start to see the ticks really coming out, and they're really hungry. So I try to avoid being too active in those time periods, all right? Like April, May, I try to stay out of the woods if I don't have to be in the woods. And if I am, then I go into open, mature hardwood areas. I avoid brush or any kind of dense, undergrowth areas with a lot of tall grass and brushy areas. All right. So avoid the woods in the spring, especially when the temperature first starts warming up, to the 50s and 60s. All right. That's my first tip. And obviously, if it's SHTF, you're not going to have a choice. All right. You're going to have to bug out. You have to bug out. You have to bug out. You're not going to have a choice. But in that situation, you want to avoid brushy areas. You want to avoid undergrowth. You want to stay to mature hardwood areas if you can, and try not to go into brushy areas. Now, another thing about brushy areas too is that unless you have to go through a brushy area to conceal yourself, you really should avoid it, because there's also a lot of other hazards in brushy areas. You can step on a snake. You can encounter a bear or a rabid animal like a raccoon or some type of a fox that may have a nest in that brushy area. So going into brushy areas is not recommended in general, even in a SHTF, unless you're in an escape and evasion situation where somebody is pursuing you, or there's a high likelihood that somebody may be observing you. Then you want to go into that brushy area and use it for concealment. Okay, if you think that there's somebody following you or tracking you, or if you're in a very populated area with a lot of people, then you want to go into those brushy areas to conceal yourself. But if you're not in a populated area, or the threat of somebody observing you, or anyone that's going to be doing surveillance in an area that you may be moving through, then stay out of brushy areas, because there's more hazards in brushy areas than there are open hardwoods. And and then you got poison ivy to deal with. Like I said, you may have rabid animals that have nests in the brushy areas. There's all kinds of hazards, so you want to avoid them in general. But I'm just gonna hold my camera now because of the wind, and there's actually a broken bird egg over here. I don't know what kind of bird egg that is, but let's see if I can show you guys here. I just noticed this now while I was talking. There's a little bird shell here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but yeah, I don't know what kind of bird that is, but all right, so we talked about springtime, and obviously summertime is there's always going to be ticks in the summer. So if you're moving about in the summertime in a SHTF situation, you obviously need to be conscious and aware of ticks and other kinds of bugs as well. But this video I'm talking about ticks. So summertime, there's always going to be ticks around, and then once the weather starts to get like below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when the ticks, start to hibernate more. And obviously, once you have a 1 or 2 nights below freezing, or there's a good frost, then the ticks will usually not be so active, and they're going to start to go down into the ground and hibernate under the leaves and try to keep themselves warm. And so once it starts getting cooler, you don't have to worry about them as much. But in the summertime, in the spring, that's going to be the big, early fall. Those are your big tick seasons, all right? Especially, like I said, in the springtime, that's when the ticks really start to get hungry and they start to get active. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show you basic things that, just by how you dress can minimize, tick exposure. So if you notice, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt here. Okay, this is just a BDU. This is a battle dress uniform, military, old school. This is a 100% cotton ripstop, olive drab BDU. And one thing you'll notice here is I have long sleeves. Okay, I'm not wearing short sleeves. Having long sleeves will protect you from having any kind of tick, crawl up your arm and, get inside. So you want to have your sleeves rolled down, and you want to have them tight, as tight as possible. So this way the ticks can't, if let's say they get on your hand or they get on your sleeve, they're not going to be able to get underneath and get inside of you. All right, but if you have short sleeves, if I was wearing short sleeves right now, let's say I was walking through the woods or through a brushy area and a tick got on my forearm, the tick can crawl up and go underneath my t-shirt, and it can latch on in my armpit or some other type of area, that like a crevice in the body. That's where ticks like to latch themselves, okay? They like to latch onto crevices, all right? Armpits, private parts, butt cracks, I don't know how else to say it, but, butt cracks. I've actually pulled, ticks off of my butt crack area at least a few times. I know people that have had to do it, okay? So those are favorite areas for ticks, okay? They like to occupy crevices where they know that they're going to be protected, and you're not going to be able to find them, all right? So, first thing to do is wear long sleeves, all right? Even if it's summertime, get yourself like one of these BDUs. This is a cotton BDU. Even in the summertime, this is actually pretty cool because it's cotton, so it breathes, and it'll actually cool you down because it's going to hold the sweat, and that sweat is going to cool you down. It's kind of like if you when you were a kid and you were playing outside and you overheated, you would go run in front of a sprinkler, right? And your shirt would get soaked in water, and then that wet shirt against your skin would keep you cool. All right, same thing with these BDUs, especially if it's a cotton BDU for the summertime. The cotton is very breathable and it holds water. All right, so if it's a hot day outside, and you start to sweat and your BDU gets sweat on it, it's gonna keep you cool because it's gonna be wet with your sweat, and it's gonna hit your skin and it's gonna cool you down. So having a cotton BDU like this, this is made by Proper, I think. Yeah, it's a Proper BDU. I recommend True Spec. I like True Spec better than Proper if you're gonna get a cotton ripstop BDU. And long sleeves, okay? This way, if you're moving through a brushy area, the tick is going to get onto your sleeves rather than go on your skin and then crawl up and get into your armpit or, down into your butt crack or something like that. So long sleeves is number one, okay? Number two is tuck your pants in. Tuck your pants into your boots, all right? Let me show you. I don't know if you guys can see my boots here. All right, you see how I tucked my pants here into my boot, all right? And the reason why you want to do that is because, again, if a tick gets onto my shoe here, okay, if let's say there's a tick right now crawling on my boot, right? The tick is not going to be able to crawl up my leg because I have my pants tucked into my boot here, right? So the tick can't go up my leg and then go into my butt crack or my private parts or wherever, or climb up somewhere, all right? Because I have my pants in my boots, okay? So it's impossible for the tick to get underneath my pants, all right? So that's another big thing, all right? Tuck your pants into your boots. Very simple, all right? Do not wear shorts in the woods. Absolutely never wear shorts of any kind, okay? That's just asking for it, all right? Wear pants. If you're going to wear pants in the summertime, obviously nobody wants to wear pants in the summer because it's hot. So get yourself some cotton ripstop, okay, pants. And these are 100% cotton. They're breathable, and they're going to be nice and cool. They'll keep you cool. All right, so long sleeves, keep them buttoned tight, and tuck your pants into your boots. All right, those are the first two big things you need to do to protect yourself from ticks. Another thing you want to do is check yourself periodically. All right, if you're operating in a wooded environment, you need to check your body for ticks. All right, what I like to do is I like to do a tick check every couple of minutes. If I'm moving through a very brushy area and I know that there's a high chance of having ticks or getting ticks on me, then I'll stop and I'll check myself every 2 or 3 minutes, all right? And like if you watch my video that I uploaded a week and a half ago, what I did was I stopped like every 2 or 3 minutes because I knew I was going through a brushy area and I knew that ticks were going to get on me. So I stopped every 2 or 3 minutes and I looked at my pants, I checked my boots, and many times you'll see the ticks crawling on your pants, and you can grab them and just, you know, flick them with your finger, just get them off, you know, just throw them off your body. So if you're moving in a brushy area, you know, if conditions allow it, you should stop and check yourself for ticks as often as you can, okay? Now, if there's somebody that's tracking you and you're in an escape and evasion scenario, and, you know, you're not going to be able to stop every 2 minutes to check yourself for ticks because there's another threat that's more dangerous, you know, like somebody tracking you down and, you know, possibly shooting you or killing you or something like that, or robbing you, then obviously you don't want to do that. But if conditions allow it, then you should try to stop and check yourself every couple of minutes if you're moving through a very brushy area, okay? If you're not moving through a brushy area, then you can probably check yourself every 30 minutes, you know. It really doesn't take a long time to just stop what you're doing and just look down at your pants, check your boots, you know, look at your, you know, check your pants. Mostly what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check your pant legs, your thighs, especially your thighs here, all right? Because when you're moving through a brushy area, you're walking through it, all the brush is going to rub against your thighs. So all the ticks are going to be right here on my thighs typically, all right? Anytime I find ticks on me, they're usually on my thighs or my calves or somewhere here on the side, all right? So, you know, check your pants, look down, you know, just take a look at your pants and you'll catch them, usually on your thighs, all right? Check the sides, check your calves, all right, especially your calves. Look at your boots, your shoes, okay? Check everything, all right? So that's what I usually do, all right? So like I said, every 2 or 3 minutes, if you're moving through a brushy area and conditions allow, then check your thighs, check your, oh, here's one. Oh no, that was just a fly. All right, so stand by, guys. We've got some guy with a dirt bike here. Just had somebody with a dirt bike drive by. You're not supposed to ride a dirt bike over here, but, you know, I guess with the lockdown, you know, people are bored, so they're riding their dirt bikes around. But anyway, so, you know, you're moving through a brushy area, all right? Check your thighs, check your calves, all right? Look at the back of your legs too, all right? Turn around and look at your calves on the back, all right? Check your hamstring area, your knees, all right? Your thighs. You want to look at your legs, check the back of your legs as well, and just give yourself a look through, okay? It's not rocket science, guys, okay? You know, just check your legs, look around, see if there's any ticks there, all right? And you know, you want to do that, like I said, every 2-3 minutes in a brushy area, and if conditions allow, okay? And again, if you're in an open area, hardwoods, you don't have to check as much, maybe every 30 minutes or so. All right, and another tip, besides checking yourself and wearing long sleeves and tucking your pants into your boots, is to wear leather boots, okay? Don't wear like nylon sneakers or you know, any kind of you know, there's a lot of these shoes now that have like mesh on them. It's like a nylon mesh that helps, you know, breathe, and you know, like those very lightweight athletic shoes, you want to avoid those, all right? Because a lot of those shoes, it's very easy for the ticks to latch onto them because that mesh is very thin and very light, and it's very easy for the tick with its you know, legs to just grab onto it, you know what I mean? So if you have like a leather boot like mine, okay, here I have a leather boot, all right, it's not that easy for a tick to latch onto this, all right, because leather is a very dense material, and the ticks are not going to be able to easily grab it with their with their claws, okay? So even this nylon here, this is Cordura, okay? This is not like cheap mesh that, you know, they put on sneakers. This is Cordura nylon. I think it's 500 denier Cordura, okay? So the ticks are not going to be able to easily grab onto my boot here and latch on, all right? If I was wearing, you know, nylon sneakers with that mesh, you know, like a lot of athletic shoes and a lot of sneakers, the ticks latch onto that much easier, okay? So that pretty much covers most of the, you know, things that you can do to protect yourself. I know it's not really that much, but like I said, avoid springtime if you can. If you can't, then avoid brushy areas at all costs, all right? Especially those warm spring days, like those first couple of warm days are really the worst because the ticks start to thaw out and they're hungry. So avoid being in the woods on those days, but also if you have no other option and it's a bug out situation, then avoid brushy areas at all costs, all right? And if you have to go through the brush, then check yourself every 2-3 minutes, you know, check your thighs, check your calves. Also check your body, you know, check your arms, you know, look at your sleeves and see if there's any, you know, ticks on them, all right? Just stop. It only takes about 3-4 minutes to do a full body tick check, all right? And that 3-4 minutes can save you a lot of problems down the road, especially if it's a SHTF situation and you don't have access to a doctor and antibiotics, okay? So stop. You know, take a breather. You can use the tick check as a way to catch your breath and rehydrate and things like that. Check your map, scan your surroundings and see if anybody's following you. You know, if it's a SHTF, you know, see if anybody's tracking you or following you. But you know, check your sleeves, check your legs, your thighs. You know, check your, you know, look down on your shirt, you know, check your shirt, look down on it and see if there's any, you know, black spots, all right? You have to look closely, all right? Simple things like that can help a lot, all right? Tuck your pants into your boots, wear leather boots, don't wear any sneakers or any of those cheap, you know, mesh type shoes that are made for, you know, running and things like that, you know, because the ticks will, you know, grab onto it much easier than leather. Wear long sleeves, all right? And now I'm going to talk about chemicals that you can use to protect yourself, and I'm going to go over the pluses and minuses of different types of chemicals and how to use them properly. So stand by for that, guys. All right, guys, so I'm going to talk to you about the chemicals now that you can use to protect yourself and how they work and the different varieties and pros and cons of each one, okay? So the first one that I highly recommend everybody use is permethrin. This is made by Sawyer. You don't have to get this brand. There's other brands out there, but this is the one that I happen to use and that I happen to have right now. It's Sawyer permethrin, okay? And as long as it's permethrin, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's Sawyer or, you know, any other company. Doesn't matter, all right? You want permethrin, all right? Permethrin was used by the U.S. military during the Vietnam War, and it's been tested by the military as a repellent against bugs, you know, mosquitoes and ticks and things like that. And you know, during the Vietnam War, they used permethrin to protect themselves from malaria-carrying mosquitoes, okay? So it's been tested by the military, and it works, okay? Now, the good thing about permethrin is not for use on skin, all right? What you do with this is you spray it on your clothing, and what it does is it's actually a pesticide, all right? So when you spray this on your clothing, it bonds to your clothing, and if a tick or a mosquito get onto your clothing, it'll actually either repel them and make them want to, you know, jump off of you, or it'll actually kill them, okay? So, what you do with this is you spray this on your clothing, and then you let it dry a couple of hours, and then you can wear those clothes, and it's going to repel any kind of tick or mosquito, that's going to try to get onto you, all right, or it's going to even kill them, all right, because it is a pesticide, and it is safe on the body, okay. It's safe. You're not going to get cancer or anything because you're applying this to your clothing, all right. Remember, you have to be safe. If you're applying this to your clothing, you want to make sure you don't breathe this in, all right. Don't do it on a windy day where you're going to have it blowing on your face and blowing on your skin and stuff. Apply it on a calm day, and avoid getting it on your skin and breathing it in, getting it in your eyes, all right, because it is toxic, all right. So the most important thing is when you're applying it to your clothing, be very careful, but it works. It's 100% effective, and it will work for up to 6 weeks or 6 wash cycles, okay. So once you apply this onto your clothing, it'll stay for up to 6 weeks. It'll be effective for a month and a half, all right, or six wash cycles, all right. After that, you got to reapply it. So that's really good, if you have clothing that you plan to use for bugging out or getting home or an SHTF, you want to treat it with this, okay. Treat your SHTF clothes with this, okay, and you'll be good to go. It'll provide a lot of protection, especially if you follow those protocols that I mentioned of tucking your pants into your boots, wearing long sleeves. It's gonna provide a barrier, okay, because like I said, most ticks live on brush, and that's how they attach themselves to animals, okay. They hang off of the brush, and they wait for an animal or a person to walk by, and then they latch on. Like if this is a person walking through a brushy area, the tick is they crawl up onto a branch or something like that, and they leave a couple of their legs hanging off the branch, and when you walk by, the tick latches onto your clothing, and it gets attached to your body. So in this case, this is very effective, okay, because if it tries to attach itself, it's going to die. So first thing is permethrin, okay, highly recommend that, all right. Next thing that you're going to want to carry with you in your bug out bag or in your survival kit or your hiking pack is you're going to want to have some type of a repellent, okay. These repellents, there's two types of repellents that you need to know. There's DEET, and then there's picaridin. Picaridin is a new repellent that just came out in the last couple of years, and it's very effective. It's been tested, and it works, and it's actually in some ways better than DEET, okay. DEET is old school, okay. Now for a bug out bag, one of these 2 or 3 ounce bottles is perfect, okay. Here I have a Sawyer Maxi DEET. It's 100% DEET, and it's a 2 ounce spray bottle, and here's a 3 ounce spray bottle, okay, or pump spray. These are pump sprays. You don't want to have anything with an aerosol in your bug out bag because it could explode. So you just want to get yourself one of these pump sprays and put it in your backpack, in your bug out bag, your hiking bag, your hunting bag, whatever, your get home bag, okay. Keep these in there. So the main difference between DEET and picaridin is that picaridin is safe for all clothing and fabrics and gear, okay, versus DEET. All right, DEET will actually melt nylons and polyesters, and if you spray this on your tent by accident, or you're wearing, let's say, a polyester shirt or nylon shirt, and you spray this and it gets on there, it's actually going to melt the clothing, all right, because it's a very strong chemical. It's a toxin, all right. So this is very effective. DEET, first of all, DEET has been tested by the military many times, all right, for use against mosquitoes that carry malaria, and it's 100% effective, no doubt, all right. It's been tested by the military. It works. It's been used for decades, so there's no doubt that DEET works, okay. The problem with DEET is that it will melt synthetic fibers, okay. So with that being said, as long as you're aware of that and you don't use it, if you're not wearing any synthetics, then you're okay. Like right now I'm wearing cotton I'm wearing a cotton BDU top and I'm wearing cotton pants. So if I spray it on my clothing or on my arms, I'm not worried about it. But if you have like a watch or a compass and you get some of this on there, it's gonna eat away at the watch glass and the compass glass, or any other kind of plastic. It's not just nylons and polyester clothing or fabrics, it's also plastics. It will melt it. So that's the only downfall with DEET, is that it's effective, but it's very hard on gear. And picaridin, on the other hand, picaridin, this is 20% picaridin. That's the most effective concentration of picaridin, is 20%. And this is very effective, but it doesn't melt your gear, okay? It doesn't affect plastics or synthetics. And it works up to 12 hours, okay? It will work up to 12 hours. 20% picaridin will work up to 12 hours. So what that means is all you have to do is spray it on your skin and you're good to go. Now you can also spray these on your clothing. Like if you don't have, let's say you didn't treat your clothing with permethrin, all right, and all you have is this. Let's say you're in an emergency scenario and you don't have your treated clothes with you, and you're in a bug out situation and all you have is one of these in your bug out bag. You can spray this on your shoes, on your boots, on your clothing, and it'll repel the ticks, okay? Now you also want to put this on your skin. That's what this is made for, all right? You put this on your skin and it's a repellent and it's 100% safe, okay? Now with the DEET, you have different concentrations. You have 10%, 20%, 30%, 100%. What you see here, this is 100% DEET, okay? This is 100% DEET. This is the highest concentration. It's pure DEET. And it doesn't actually make it better, the percentage of DEET. All it does is it makes it last longer, okay? So whether you have, as long as you're beyond 30% DEET, it's going to have the same effect. It's just that once you go beyond 30%, the DEET is going to stay longer and have a longer, a longer half-life on your skin, all right, versus as long as you're up beyond 30%, up to 30% is where you're going to have a big difference. So if you have like a 5% DEET versus 30% DEET, the 30% DEET is going to be much more effective than the 5%, okay? But if you're beyond 30%, it doesn't really matter. It's just that for every 10% beyond 30%, you're going to add another hour to 2 hours of half-life that the DEET is going to be effective on your skin, okay? So 100% DEET, like this Maxi DEET from Sawyer, is going to be good for up to 10 hours, all right, or even 12 hours, versus like a 30% DEET, like a typical, insect repellent that you buy at a store would be like, typically it's like 20 or 30% DEET inside of it, and that's like Off Deep Woods. That's the popular brand, Off, and I think Off Deep Woods has like 30% DEET inside of it. And that'll last for like 3-4 hours, and then you got to reapply it, okay? Versus the 100% DEET, you apply it once and you're good for 10-12 hours, okay? So that's what makes it very advantageous compared to like a standard, insect repellent that only has like 30%. But again, like I said, the percentage doesn't affect, how good it is. It just affects how long it lasts, all right, the half-life. I prefer picaridin, all right. I used this for years. I had this in my bug out bag for years, but once they came out with picaridin, I replaced it with picaridin, all right, because I know it's going to be safe on my gear. It's not going to melt my compass. It's not going to melt my watch. It's not going to melt my glasses. I don't wear glasses, but if I have like safety glasses or shooting glasses or something like that, I know it's not going to affect it, okay, or any other type of nylon gear. But all right, so that's pretty much it for the chemicals. And I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and tell me what other kind of videos you want me to do as far as survival and outdoors and things like that. So remember, guys, keep it simple. Okay, don't make it harder than it has to be. That's my favorite expression is keep it simple, stupid. Keep things simple for yourself. All right, don't overcomplicate it. Check yourself for ticks periodically. That's the best way to protect yourself. Wear long sleeves. Tuck your pants into your boots. Check yourself periodically. Avoid brushy areas. Springtime is obviously the worst, like I said. And one final thing that I almost forgot to mention now that I'm talking about it is ticks like moist areas, areas where there's a lot of shade and moisture. Okay, ticks need moisture just like people. Okay, they will not survive in a sunny, open area that's very hot and dry. Okay, so just remember that if you're moving in the woods, all right, just remember that if you're in like a shadowy, shady area where there's a lot of shade, that's where there's going to be more ticks in that area. Okay, the tick population is going to be higher. So you want to use extra caution when you're in those, shady, moist environments. All right, like if it's in the summertime and you have a canopy over you, and it's a very shady area and there's a lot of brush and it's moist, that's where you're going to have a lot of ticks. Okay, if it's like a sunny, open area, there's going to be less ticks. Okay. Obviously, if there's a high deer population, there's going to be a lot of ticks. Okay, that's why there's so many ticks over here where I live, because there's a high deer population density. So any areas where there's a lot of deer, there's going to be a lot of ticks. Okay, so just wanted to mention that before I wrap up the video. So let me know what you guys want to see, what other topics you want me to talk about. I have a lot of outdoor knowledge and experience that I can share with you guys, so leave it in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.